this show's based on Lakota Star knowledge, and Lakota Star knowledge says the universe was created from within, and then it goes out. Yeah. So before you this is also saying that before you can understand what's out there, you have to understand what's inside. Yeah, because out there is a reflection. Some people go the opposite. Yeah, they go out there, and next thing you know, they're making up all these really goofy stories and saying they were abducted by aliens and they were lifted up by vibration. And I mean, there's even Indians doing this. Yeah, they have beaded. You see, there's a guy out there who calls himself Chief Golden Light Eagle, and we don't have names like that. That kind of sounds a little bit egotistic there. Yeah, it's a little bit narcissistic kind of sounding name. And this guy is from Yankton. He's that's not really his name. His last name is Zephyr, and they're part French. Yeah, and he's not a chief, by the way. He made himself a chief, and in our tradition, you don't make yourself a chief. The people choose you to be a chief. Yeah. Because of the good things that you've done for the people so that everybody can live. And the chief is not rich. Yeah, he doesn't have the biggest and fanciest teepee and things like that. No, he lives very humble because he gives everything away. The chief, if you look in terms of material wealth, the chief would be the poorest one in the group. Yeah? But we don't think like that. Yeah, we don't think in that kind of terms. So he loves his people. He helps, and there's not just one chief in the tribe, by the way. There's no one leader of a tribe. And in our way, it's always a council. And even then, there's not just one. There's several councils that meet, and they all are similar thinkers in that council. So in the traditional Lakota government, things took forever, because they really, really thought about the solutions to problems. Yeah, and then when they finally come to a decision, it's a damn good one. That's how it was in those days. Yes, it's not like that today anymore. Anyway, this guy, he has this Lakota Star knowledge thing, and this is not what Lakota. What he does is he takes information from Egyptian mythology, Roman mythology, and Greek mythology, and he mixes it all up together with Lakota terms, and he calls that Lakota Star knowledge. And that isn't. That's not what it is. Boy, this group is really filled with crazy people. There's one faction that believes there's a planet out there called Dakota, with the E, Dakote, and they believe that planet was going to blow up. And what does that sound like? Huh? Sounds like Superman there. They said that planet was going to blow up, and so they all got on their spaceships that look like medicine wheels, and they were searching for another home, and so they found the Earth 600,000 years ago, and they say that they landed here and they stayed amongst themselves, and there were cave people running around all over the place, and they learned about the three groups of Lakota people, the Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota groups, and so they intermarried with them, and because of that, they were the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people were enlightened by these aliens called Dakota. Yeah, and that's how they got their knowledge, was through these ETs. Yeah, these from planet Dakota, and they say that there's some still left here, and that we're protecting them. This is total bullshit. Yeah, they say that there's one left. They say, and that all the elders among all the Sioux people love this guy and they protect him and they see him like a Jesus Christ. It's total bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Yeah, it's nothing but shit. And then they have a video on YouTube, and I'm not going to put that on my Facebook page because I don't promote them, because they're a bunch of idiots. And the video, they try to impress people by using Lakota language, and they have the grammar incorrect. They're using the wrong words, and they're mixing up male and female gender terms, and they're also pronouncing everything incorrectly. And the narrator of this video, he was saying that, before he made this video, he said he received a vision in which there were 4 medicine wheels, kind of, what do you call it, somewhere out in the prairies in South Dakota, that were built from the ground, yeah, and that each one represents a Lakota people, one represents a Dakota people, one represents a Nakota, and that 4th one represents these people that came from space. And this was, and he said this to this supposed last Dakota that's still here, and that guy said, "Yep, that's correct." He said, "Hey, this is just like a bunch of little kids playing Fantasyland, yeah," and the whole video, I was writing down what was wrong with this video. And I had to pause the video because there were so many things that are incorrect. They have our language incorrect. They have our grammar in the language incorrect. They're pronouncing things incorrectly. And there's so much that I can boldly say that the entire video is total shit. Yeah, and they really think that they are. They're trying to fool the world into thinking that they are associated with Lakota people, and they're not. Lakota people don't even know who these guys are. These guys are just, they're low self-esteem people who are afraid to go within themselves to find that peace, so they look out there and they just make things up to make themselves feel better. And the whole point is this, is that humans, for them, in their way, humans can't save themselves. So that's why they need these ETs to come down to the earth to save us. That is really a projection of what they're saying about themselves. That they can't save themselves. They need somebody to save them. That, my friends and relatives, is called codependency. See, they're projecting their inferiority complex and their emotional insecurities outwardly into these ridiculous, crazy stories like this. That's not Lakota Star knowledge. That's bullshit. Yeah, see, that's what happens when you drive a car backwards on the, eventually you're gonna blow yourself up. Yeah, running into the wrong way in traffic. So that's dangerous. Yeah, that's really, really dangerous. So people really buy into that. When I first started this show, there was a lady who wrote to me, and she said, "Yeah, there's two Pleiadians that will be coming to. They're going to be landing in a spaceship in Minnesota, and." Oh man! And she really thought I was going to believe that. Yeah, see, this is what I'm saying. They're all projecting their inferiority complexes. That's when we communicate. That's what we're doing. We're projecting our state of being to the rest of the world. So when we're talking about fantasies and some super intelligent alleged thing coming down to save us, that's what we want. Yeah, I mean that shows that we have low self-esteem. It shows that we have no hope. That's not Lakota Star knowledge. Lakota Star knowledge teaches that we are our own saviors. We don't need these outside things. Everything is inside of you. Just like the star knowledge version of the creation of the universe, it goes out from within. Yeah? From Ia, everything goes out. But how do you know what Ia is unless there's something that defines? Yeah? Like say for example, you know, you have a cup of coffee. Now how do you know? How do you know it's a cup of coffee? Number one, there's coffee in there. But what's the other thing? The cup itself. There always has to be something that is like the container part. And that's what people fail to see. They fail to realize that. So what was holding Ia? Yeah? There's something that was holding Ia. See, that really think about that. This is a part of the story here. And anyway, you know, from that, everything goes out in the universe, this universe, I should say, because there's more than one. There's many universes out there. Now, I'm not talking about galaxies. I'm talking about universes. That's just what Lakota Star Knowledge says. This is how they all formed. The same way. So there is no one God or one creator. So always organizations. Yeah? And anyway, that's something going. Let me stay on track here. So everything is going out. So the universe is an expression of where it came from. Do you see? Do you understand? So that how you communicate is a projection of what you are about. What kind of person are you? That's going to show in how you communicate. Are you calling yourself a chief? Are you calling yourself a diva? Are you calling yourself a master? Well, that shows something. That's a personality disorder because that violates the Lakota virtue of humility. See what I mean? So, how you communicate is a reflection of what kind of person you are. Lakota Star Knowledge way of living involves taking care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, because these four parts are connected to each other. And where they connect is your sacred center, deep inside of you. This has no culture. It has no language. This is human. This is ikje. Yeah, you don't have a Lakota heart. You have a human heart. Yeah. The proof of this is that all babies all over the world, they speak the same language. Before they learn their cultural language, they all speak the same language, but that's the human. That's the beginning of the human tongue. Yeah, and we all bleed red. 4 blood types on this earth. We can get transfusions from people who are different skin color as long as they have the same blood type. That shows you we're not different. We're human. This is the things that Lakota Star Knowledge talks about. So what's inside of you, that sacred center, has no language. It has no culture. It's your sacred area. The part of Grandmother Earth is there. And there's another sacred piece there too, by the way. So when you live this way, you're also going to get to know yourself. You're going to come to peace with all the difficulties from your past by learning from them and making the most of it. And when you do that, the emotions that were stored in those memories, they leave. So when you think about it later, it doesn't bother you anymore. It became a teacher. You transformed it into a teacher by learning from it. And now it's a blessing. And that helps you to remember other nice things that happened that you might have forgotten. And that's medicine. And this prepares you for the difficulties that are still coming. So when they do come, you're not afraid of it. You know, you might get angry, you might get sad, you might get scared, but you know that's just the initial reaction. And you know that, okay, you express the emotion, and then you start examining the situation, and then you say, okay, how can I make the best of it? And then you come to peace with it, whatever it is. And then you learn, you acquire knowledge, you acquire wisdom, and you have peace again. So difficulty is not a bad thing. And Lakota, a difficulty is when something is like that, and they say techia. Techia. Ata techia manke. I'm really going through a difficult time. Yeah, techia. Interesting thing is that the word for love is techila. Almost the same. They have that root word, techi. See that? That's all part of that means that emotions are part of learning experiences, and another emotion, happiness, is for you to enjoy. And after you go through a difficult time, you feel happy. You're at peace. You learned something. Now with this new knowledge you have, you can help other people as they go through it. And you learn that a difficulty is not bad. It's just something that's not done yet. And it's up to you to finish it the way you want to finish it so that it works for you. Then it turns into a blessing. Huh? So we don't call it good or bad. We call it a blessing. We call it peace when we learn from it. And then we learn that everything has at least three perspectives. And it's not about good or bad, but it's about learning and enjoying and being at peace. That's how we live. This is the ancestral way of living. This is how it was in the beginning. We didn't have all these ceremonies back then. Now, I'm talking about millions of years ago. That white buffalo calf pipe, that's not even 600 years old. What I'm talking about is millions of years old. Most of the ceremonies are not even 2,000 years old. What I'm talking about goes before that. Before the days of teepees. That's what I'm talking about. So it involves a way of living first so that you can receive knowledge. When you live this way, you're opening yourself up. You're becoming like a hollow tube when you do this, ready to receive knowledge. But you have to live this way first. Yeah? So in other words, you're going inside of yourself. You're not looking out there. You're going inside of yourself because the reality begins within. And that knowledge will come through dreams, through visions. That's all within. It's all inside of you. That's why I said, only you can save you. This is what it means. And when we're asleep, we're really close to that sacred center. So never think that, oh man, I got 10 hours of sleep. Geez, I lost all that time. No, you didn't. You spent 10 hours close to the sacred center. That's wonderful. You're more likely to receive information when you're closer to it like that. Or even when you just do normal tasks, all of a sudden, out of the blue, you get an idea. That's inspiration. This comes when you live in a humble way. Yeah, by helping others. By not trying to be prettier than others or stronger than others. Calling yourself a master, calling yourself a diva, calling yourself a king or a queen. No, that doesn't come like that. That violates humility. That's a virtue. That's a human virtue. So this way of living is a very humble way. And then when you live this way, like I said, you're preparing yourself to, because difficulties are a part of life. They just are. You don't live this way so only good things will happen. That's called fantasy. That's not reality. Nature is not this way. Yeah, sometimes rugged things happen out of the blue. So what you do is you express whatever emotion that it makes you feel. As long as you don't hurt anybody, including yourself. When I say hurt anybody, that also means nature. It means animals. It means plants. So don't be, throwing your plants against the wall, and because that's hurting them. Those are people. Those are nations. All of creation in its natural state are nations. Even the rocks. So you express your anger without hurting anything. It has to come out, or your fear, or your sadness. You have to express that so that it comes out. And that's releasing that. Now you're going to be ready to face it, and then you learn from it. You get to know it. You really study the hell out of it, so you're incredibly familiar with it, and then you realize you're learning from it. It's teaching you things. Is that bad? No, it's not. It's beautiful. So when people say that doesn't mean it's hard. It means it's a way to live. That means the Lakota ways are difficult. That doesn't mean that's not a bad thing. It means that it involves learning, and learning is living, and that is love. That's why that word techi is in both the words difficulty, or techia, and love, techila. See, the language is teaching that concept. So when you live this way, now you're opening yourself up for knowledge. Something might come to you because you're ready for it now. But it's not going to come in a spaceship. Consciousness doesn't need a spaceship to travel, okay? So when I say Lakota star knowledge, it's talking about the universe and you. Yeah, that you are very much influential in how this universe is. Before you can understand the universe out there, you have to understand the universe inside of you. What some people do when they look at things, right away they have this tendency to find something, what if they see something and there's something about it they like, they say that's good. And anything else is bad. This is dualism. People create this way of thinking. This is not the way nature is. So as long as you see something where there's only two components, this and that, that's duality. Yeah, that's unhealthy because you're what do you call it? Denying the third one. And people, there's many times there's more than three. And it doesn't matter if you can see all of them. What matters is that you see three. In time, you will see the others. But you need to see three for sure. That's the foundation. Okay? So for Lakota Star Knowledge way of living, it's this, that, and the other. Yeah? For duality, it's just this and that. And then one of those is going to be assigned good and the other one evil. And then they're going to place them at war with each other. And then they're going to say silly things like, if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. Or, if you're not with me, then you're against me. That's duality. That's really unhealthy to talk like that. Because when you're when you're in duality, you're not seeing the fullness of this world. Your mind is not clear, and you have a tendency to live in one emotion because you don't remember what I said. They only see things in two perspectives, and one of them they're going to like, and that's going to include the emotion that they like. For some people, they're addicted to happiness. For some people, they're addicted to anger, to hatred. For some people, they're addicted to sadness. Some are addicted to fear. And everything else is evil. That's the way they see it. So they force themselves to only feel that one emotion, and that leads to addiction. Yeah? Even though those other emotions are inside of them, they don't want to feel them. They don't want to express them. They deny them. That clouds up the mind. And since they're trapping that emotion, they cannot develop emotionally, which means they cannot develop spiritually either, because before you can develop spiritually, you have to develop emotionally. And Lakota Star Knowledge, when you learn from your difficulties, remember, part of that process is expressing that emotion that comes with it. Then it leaves and you start learning. And you start making the most of that. When you're doing that, you're also developing emotionally. And then you develop spiritually. So people who live that way are both emotional and spiritually developed. Dualistic people are neither one. Instead, they're addicted to an emotion. And you end up, becoming either an abuser or a victim. Codependency. Yeah? And so then you come up, you say, you need somebody to save you. So either, you start looking for people that you think will complete you, or you invent these crazy ideas that, that something out there is going to come and save you. Like this silly star knowledge people I was talking about earlier. I'll call them pseudo-star knowledge, okay? Because that's not really star knowledge what they're talking about. What they're talking about is, it's nothing but shit. And I'm being very respectful here. If I was disrespectful, I'd call it much more worse. So like I said, when people who are dualistic, they do not develop emotionally, they do not develop spiritually, so that means they become emotionally insecure, inferiority complexes, and their self-esteem drops, and so does their self-worth. See, that's why they have this. They create these ideas that something out there is going to save them. For some people, it's aliens. For some people, it's Jesus. For some people, it's some other God. But they always look out there and fail to look inside themselves. That's why in Lakota Star Knowledge, there's no God, there's no Satan, there's no heaven, there's no hell. Yeah? There's no happy hunting ground. It's something completely different. Yeah. Then the late 1800s came, and we were placed on reservations, and we were denied healthy food. Our language and culture and spirituality were declared illegal April 10th, 1883. The reservations were like prisons. We couldn't leave. Yeah? We were denied healthy food. We were denied our spirituality. We were denied our language. So we were hit in 3 of the 4 parts of the self: the body, the heart, and the soul. Then our minds went weak. Our minds collapsed. Then the churches came to the reservation and they took advantage of our weakened condition. They learned our language, they learned our stories, and they told us that almost everything from us conflicts with the Bible, which makes it evil. So they said Lakota Star knowledge is evil, it comes from the devil, and that our language was the devil's language. Yeah, and then the government divided the reservation up to different parcels of land, so that separated the people from each other. Now that broke that community way of thinking. So we didn't see each other for many days. And then the churches said, okay, now Indians come to church on Sunday, so that Indians looked forward to that because they got to see their friends and relatives at church. And then in their weakened minds, they started to believe what the priests were saying. So today, most Indians cannot speak their language, and what little information they know from their culture is incredibly Christian influenced. Yeah, it has a good versus evil concept. Today, you go to a sweat and you hear people say, we're gonna pray so the bad spirits will stay away. Yeah, there's a bad spirit bothering me. Or somebody will say, somebody's sending bad energy towards me, trying to hurt me. I'm going to put up a force field. That's fantasy. That doesn't exist in Lakota Star knowledge. That's good versus evil. That's what people create. It's fantasy. In Lakota Star knowledge, there is no such thing. But today, people do that. They'll say, yeah, I've been blessed by the elders. They put a protective field around me, so go ahead and hate me. It's all going to just hate you. You're just going to hurt yourself. That's somebody elevating themselves above others. That is still duality. That's not a healthy way. That's not the ancestral way. That's a selfish way of elevating, and then trying to blame others, finding fault with others, and blaming them for all your problems. That's irresponsibility to talk like that. A lot of Indians do that today. Something don't go right, they right away they say, somebody sent a medicine to hurt me. Well, they can't hurt me. My elders put up a force field. I am a descendant of blah, blah, blah. This is not the Lakota way of talking. Look, our ancestors never said they were descendants of whoever. There's a lot of information about Sitting Bull, and none of that. He never said he was a descendant of anybody. You make your reputation by taking care of the people. And when people try to hurt you, if you're traditional, you know this natural law of generosity, and you know that if you try to stop them, if you try to fight back in the same way they're fighting you, that the only result is going to be chaos. It's just a bunch of bad medicine being sent towards each other. That's going to hurt everything, including all the people. When you're traditional, when you're living this humble way, you understand this wawokia, that what you do goes out and it returns to you 4 times as strong. So if you're talking about, you say something like, yeah, I'm protected because my elders gave me lucky charms and they put a force field all around me and I'm a descendant of so-and-so, you're putting yourself above other people. You're doing the same thing as the people you think are hurting you. It's all the same shit. And that's not humility. Yeah, that is not humility. Absolutely not. When you're raised in a traditional way, you know that when somebody sends something, you just don't. You sure you protect yourself, but you acknowledge that you what do you call it? You make sure you're living a healthy life, because nothing can bother you as long as you're living a healthy life. I mean, this magical sending of, things, that's not going to bother you as long as you're living a healthy life. This turns around and returns to the person that sent it 4 times as strong. So you don't have to be, blessed. Yeah, you don't have to have a lucky charm or, say you're a descendant of whoever. You just live a humble life. And you do the necessary things, to do to protect yourself, yes, but you don't talk in such a way as to elevate yourself above others, because when you do that, it's going to hit you. You're telling that energy where to hit you when you talk in such a way as to elevate yourself above others. That's the kind of nonsense that happens on reservations today. So, most of us are not Christians today, but we're still dualistic. We have this us against them. And people only see things as this versus that. They don't see the other. They don't want to. That's because of duality. So you see? When all you non-Indian people, and you think you're going to the reservation to learn the ways of how to live at one with Mother Earth, you're not going to get it at the reservation, because there's a lot of dualistic Indians there. You don't need to come to the reservation to learn that. Just go out into nature wherever you are and listen to it. And then listen to yourself. Just sit still or stand still and just listen to all the sounds around you, and you will learn. And eventually you're going to go within yourself. You don't need to talk to an Indian on the reservation to do that, because most Indians are dualistic like the rest of the world is, like the rest of the modern world. And Indians are incredibly racist today. Just look on any Facebook group, and you're going to see a lot of racism on these pages. And the 4 colors of the medicine wheel, these are just the colors of the directions. They do not represent races of people. When people think Indians are red, we never called ourselves red people. That comes from Christopher Columbus when he was lost. And he thought we were Indians, and then when he realized, oh, I'm someplace else, so he said, okay, these are the red Indians. And that got carried on to Europe, and as we become civilized, we take that upon ourselves too. There's no such thing in Lakota Star knowledge that says we're red people. It never says that. It says we're Ikche Oyate. We are human beings. So the red road is not the Indian way. The red road, and it means the way to live. Because in Lakota Star knowledge, the color red is associated with south. Not north, it's south. This is the road to it has to do with the stars. There's a certain passageway in the stars that goes in that direction. That's why the south has a red color. It's not the Indian way, it's the way to live, it's the way of life. So when they say Chankuluta, this is not the Indian way. It's the way to live. And it has nothing to do with being an Indian. It has everything to do with what I just said. Taking care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Communicating in a healthy way. Learning from your difficulties. Enjoying your blessings. Receiving communication in a healthy way. Helping one another. Asking for help. Giving help. And learning from one another. Getting to know yourself. Getting to know your inner universe, so you understand the universe around you. That's mitake oyasing. That's the complete definition. Inside of you, everything is connected. It's all like relatives. Yeah? Inside of you, That's like a Tioshbaya too. It's like a nation inside of you, and it's all related, just like you're related to everything around you, the trees, the birds, the plants, the animals. Yeah. So it begins inside of you. Reality begins within. It's not about being an Indian. It's not about doing ceremonies or having sacred items. No, you are the sacred item, and your life is the ceremony. This is for everybody. It's the human way. This is the human way. That's what Lakota Star knowledge is all about.